Building your own home can be challenging enough. When it has to be off-grid, portable, and around 15 square meters, then you've got a real challenge on your hands. That's what makes this next place a true tiny house treasure. Brett.
G'day Bryce, how are you mate?
Good mate, how are you going?
Good, good. Welcome to the MV.
The MV.
The MV is a mobile villa.
And isn't it just, look at that. This is a spectacular, spectacular design.
I was living in the Caribbean for many years on and off, and I was returning back to New Zealand, but the biggest thing I was trying to avoid was losing all my money as soon as I touched down, and that's what happens when you pay rent. I just moved my brother into this tiny one-bedroom apartment yesterday. It's $350 a week. Boom, gone, all your savings. So I came back with about a year and a half's worth of rent. I thought, let's do away with rent one time. And I started looking around at ideas of what's available, and I started designing my own because I wasn't entirely happy with what I saw people doing. And as an ex-sailor and living by the water a lot, I felt the air element and space was very important. Well, the roof shape came about through wanting an airflow inside. I needed air to pass above me in my sleep. I wanted a nice airy space. And for the angles as well, for collecting the water, made it easy to collect the water from each end as opposed to all the way along the side. And with the narrow windows, I could also see out both sides, and I could also see what my solar panels are doing sitting on the perfect angle up on the roof. I've lived on small boats for many years. I built my own catamaran in Brazil, lived on that for many years. So what I wanted was to maximize the space of a small space with the visuals of the windows and the placement of the windows, of the head space, sloping up and away, and the whole feel inside. So I just sat down and started designing my own. So, welcome in.
That is absolutely spectacular. I have to say, immediately coming in, it's such a surprise because it's so modern compared to the traditional tiny house, isn't it? It's almost got that ultimate bachelor pad kind of feel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how big is the space?
Well, it's 6 meters long.
Yep.
Plus a 1 meter porch on the back.
Yep.
So a 7 meters long trailer with a 2 meter drawbar.
Right.
The highest point is 4.17 meters from the ground.
So we're basically talking 15 square meters inside the house plus the deck area outside.
Yep.
It's a lovely size space. Being in this, it doesn't feel at all cramped, does it?
Yeah. I saw all of the pictures on YouTube with the gabled roofs and everything, and every time I was watching one of those YouTube clips, I felt like this. Pulling the shoulders, you know, you're in a peak area.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. I said, man, you got the space, open it up.
Yeah. And this is very clever what you've done with this area up here, because also coming up the stairs as you go into that loft area, all of a sudden the loft opens up as well.
Yeah.
Which is really good.
This is 2 meters long, so I can have visitors come and stay. That's a day bed, I call it.
Yep.
Now,
give it the acid test. There you go, 6'4" and lying down. Definitely enough space.
Yeah. And you could put that on the ground here as well and use this, and then you've got a double bed here.
Yeah.
So
brilliant.
Under here we have flexi tank.
Right, so this is all the water storage.
Yeah. Now flexi tank is what they use on sailboats a lot. It's very light, and it conforms to any ribs and stuff on the boat.
Yeah.
This is the filler going through the wall here and connected to the downpipes.
And
So
how many litres of water is stored in this?
This is 380 litres.
Right.
And this is where I do my hobbies, my computer, whatever. I'm an artist. I've lived off my art since '97, Done a couple of spells working on boats. I got into boating when I hitchhiked from Cape Town to Brazil and then up to the Caribbean back in '94, and lived and worked on boats for a number of years. So for a year and a half I built my catamaran. I'd never done that before, but you have a plan and it tells you what to do in the plan, so you just do it and you end up with a catamaran. And so we sailed that from Brazil back up to St. Martin in the Caribbean. So living on my catamaran, I quickly realised I didn't need much to survive. No rent. Wow, what a freedom. So I wasn't chasing money.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm a bone carver. I'm self-taught bone carver since I was 16, and I loved it, so I decided to launch myself into bone carving, become a professional bone carver. And I did it. And this was all recycled Remu from the junkyard.
That's beautiful.
It takes a little bit of time to clean it up, but I'm so much happier with a wooden desktop. This here is the wheel arch that you see in there, and so this hides that whole wheel arch, and it actually allows you to put your feet up on something when you're sitting.
This is a really clever way of actually
really handy.
dealing with that space, because the mud guards, they actually come up in quite an awkward space in the tiny house because it's right in the middle, isn't it? And so this is a very, very good way of hiding that, but also turning it into something which is functional. And then behind us, dining area.
Dining area.
So this looks like an ingenious little table which folds up.
I wanted space, so when you're not using it, that's now. Otherwise, bingo, you have enough room.
There it is.
To have a nice, comfortable dining table.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I feel like we should have a coffee now. This is lovely. And again, this is the same recycled Remu that you found at the dump?
This was going to be burned. And so, I mean, if you don't mind a couple of nail holes or gouges, then you get your Remu filler you can buy from the hardware, and you just fill in the gouges.
Yeah, and
you don't notice
you
it
just
too
never
bad.
notice that, eh? But there's something also about that I think is really appealing, because it gives it more character, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it actually gives it a
not
sense
too
of
clinical.
history, and it makes it feel like this used to be something else, which is really cool.
Yeah. And just fold up the legs, fold it away, and you got your space back. I decided to go for brand new benches. They were normally 600 wide. I cut 10 centimetres off the length.
Yep, so again 500 in depth,
500,
which we're seeing is pretty common in tiny houses, to just take the 10 centimetres off. Doesn't really affect your working space, and the other good thing about going to 500 is that most off-the-shelf kitchen appliances, gas hobs, sinks will still actually fit on a 500 bench, so it's a good size to go to.
Like the fridge just fits under here.
Yeah.
The sink I got from a recycling yard. It was actually a brand new sink. I got that for $35. I spent more on the plug. The taps. Once again, if you have a wish list, people will pull it out of their garage, you know. That was free, that was a gift. Under here, we got my little 12-volt pump, my water pump. This is sitting off at the moment because this is in the way. This is just a temporary drain.
Does that 12-volt pump service the whole house, so the tap and the shower, or do you need a separate one for the shower?
No, it's all the same. Still has to get plumbed in.
So this is gas?
Gas, yes. So the electric stove would just draw too many amps.
Yeah.
To be practical.
Great.
I got my other 12-volt outlet here, so I can use an inverter if I need to plug in a juicer or blender or something like that.
And the bathroom?
The bathroom. It's one of those adaptable spaces. Simple hooks. You don't want to be using the bathroom and you don't want to see it. You do that, and so you've got all the use of the space here. Two people can be working around here, not bumping into each other. I've got good access to my little cupboards here, and that's out of the way. If you want to use the bathroom, then you simply change the layout of the bathroom to have all of that space.
That's really cool. That's a very, very clever idea.
So convertible spaces.
And this is very cool because you've got a shower and a tub here.
It's called a shub. This was pulled out of a skip. Got that for nothing. Now this is a 3-walled plastic shower liner. You know where to get them for $5? Go down to your local hardware store. They break them all the time.
Right.
They're difficult to be shipping and moving around. This one here had a big crack on the bottom of it, and because I don't need the full length, I just cut all the broken stuff off. $5. These cost $320.
Yeah.
So go down. It's really good to know somebody who works at your local Bunnings, who knows what's about to go in the skip out the back. That
Good
helps.
point. Composting toilet?
Composting toilet. My new addition, I've just finished it. I will show you inside because it's clean, hasn't been used. Once again, good to know somebody down at your local Bunnings. There's a $100 toilet seat that I got for $30 because it was end of the range and they mark it down until they have to get rid of it.
Yep.
So you know what they have to get rid of. And that's all it is. I didn't want to build it solid in there because I didn't know what my opportunities were. This you can just literally pick up and go and make an outdoor toilet.
Brilliant.
And then you've got all this with no toilet in the space at all.
Yeah.
So
It's a really good idea.
Now this also happens to fit all the way in there.
Right there under your hanging space.
And you hardly even know you got a toilet here. So over here we have my electrics panel. This is a 30 amp solar regulator, my battery isolator switch, and my switchboard. So you really know that's how many volts is in the battery right now. That's how much is being produced by the sun. You got a little smiley face when it's all good.
Always reassuring to see a smiley face. But the wonderful thing again about having a DC household is you don't have to worry about employing an electrician because it's safe enough to work with it yourself.
Certificate of wiring fitness not required if it's less than 50 volts. 12 volts.
Ideal.
If you don't know what to do, somebody does.
Exactly. And the way that you've built the stairs in here is very clever. It takes up minimal space. Also, by not having the gabled roof, what you've done is opened up so that actually like the apex of your space here is exactly where you need the headroom to be able to walk up into the attic, which is very, very clever.
These are 500 wide.
Right.
I was thinking 400, but as I started building it, I moved it to 500 wide and made my office desk just a bit shorter.
Shall we go upstairs?
Yes.
After you.
After me.
The shape of the roof here just really does add so much space to the loft area, doesn't it?
It does. You got so much more air space. You got wonderful airflow coming through here, which is something I really put a lot of thought into ensuring that I had, because I don't like stale, dead air.
Yep.
And I like that it's not coming in like this in the sides here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was avoiding. So for 2 people up here, you got room to move. So this here, yes, all storage for duvets and blankets, and this swallows up so much stuff. It's like sheets, hammock, winter gear that you're not using, spare duvets. Really happy I built that into the foot space.
So when you decided to move into a tiny house, did you have to downsize your life?
From the apartment I was living in the Caribbean, it was a lot more roomier than this. But after living on boats for many years, this is more room in this than I ever had on my catamaran or another small boat I used to live on. This is way more space. Way more spacious.
Would you consider yourself to be a minimalist?
Yes, I'm a backpacker. I've done about 20 years backpacking, traveling, sleeping in tents, and I enjoy the freedom of not having too many things. And one of the great things from when I left New Zealand last time is selling everything. Felt so good. Last thing I sold was my van on the way to the airport. It's like, yeah, no more road costs and bills and something to worry about, the rust or whatever, you know. There's so many things you just release. And so doing it simple is a great way to really simplify your mind on thinking about so many things that you don't really need to think about.
So now that you've finished it, you're here, you're in your tiny house. What does this house represent to you?
Being self-sustainable, not relying on a system that tends to tie you to the system, not paying out every week. Every single week you got to find those $300 or whatever every single week so somebody else can sit and build a nest egg. And we've made it okay to do it to each other. And I don't like that idea. I think if you're renting, you should be renting to buy. I want my own place so that I don't fall into that problem. Now, we here in New Zealand, we have a big problem with people who can't afford a house, who will never own a house. So why don't they build a little place and start to save money? Then they can buy their land. Then they can move their little micro house onto the land. Then they can start saving money because they're not paying out rent every week. Then they can save money and actually build their own house. So they could have it all. But you need to start right, as opposed to living in a economic sieve that just drains everything, all your efforts gone. And I'll never own a normal home because I refuse to get a mortgage and put myself through that. So this is the way out. You can build it slowly, drip feed it. People around you, you'll make it happen.
I think Brett has done an amazing job in designing this tiny house. It has a lot of unique features that I've never seen in any other tiny house design before. And I think altogether it comes to make the space incredibly functional. Add to that the fact that it's also off-grid, capturing its own rainwater and generating its own electricity means that this house really boils down to one very important concept, and that's freedom.